wild card to keep watching is going to be terror. Terror is back in style. Look for the orange alerts, the yellow alerts. Look for every kind of makeup alert that they can make up. And Napolitano will be out there, Homeland Security, saying that the situation is under control. I can't believe they came up with such an unbelievable character.
That's right. And we also have all these different governments saying 300 suicide bombers on planes, thousands of white al-Qaida. The militias have linked up with al-Qaida. Now, that clearly is staged, and we got the MIAC and Homeland Security reports that stated the real Homeland Security system is set up for veterans, gun owners, patriots, the American people revolting against Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan that have been robbing us. Can you speak to that, to them trying to use the terror card against the American people, and to what you see on the revolt end that you've said you've seen coming up in 2012?
We see the revolt really gaining steam because there's not going to be any recovery. Unemployment numbers are terrible, and we know they're fudging the numbers. And that's not, this isn't made up, by the way. Just look at the facts. The third quarter GDP reports, 2009, it came in 3.5%. The stock market was, jubilant. They just rose and kept going higher. Well, then they readjusted. Well, it wasn't 3.5. It was 2.8. All right. Then they readjusted it one more once, down to 2.2. As you well know, they're cooking the unemployment numbers as well. The real unemployment rate with long-term unemployed, discouraged, part-time, we're looking at 20%. When winter sets in, remember, you're going to start seeing a big increase in unemployment as the temporary jobs that were created during the holidays start to disappear. And then look behind the numbers of what kind of jobs are being created. Hey, you want a job in home health care? How about a personal home health aide? There's a job for $8.20 an hour waiting for you. Want to stock shelves at Walmart's? You have that 4-year college degree. Let's put it to use.
Well, they already reported this is the worst Christmas sales since 1979.
Well, again, this is what we're looking at. The jobs that are being created, even when they're pumping the numbers up, the jobs aren't worth anything. So we're going to, and then, oh, by the way, this is another big one. All these kids with college degrees that their parents said that it could be anything they wanted to be, they have nothing. They're going nowhere. It's a dead end. So now you're putting all this together. You're seeing the beginning of the Second American Revolution. It's underway. It happened with the Tea Parties, the tax protests, the 4th of July demonstrations, the town hall meeting revolts, the people going to march on Washington against big government. Of course, it's being hijacked by different elements out there, but nonetheless, it's still moving forward. So as we're looking at the economy going down, we're looking at the revolution going up, and then we're looking at terrorism. The government knows they're losing control. When they lose control, they tighten the screws. And that's what we're going to see. The screws are going to be tightened in the name of terror.
But how does that play out? I mean, reading a trends forecaster, which I really respect, you're believing it's not going to work. It'll take a few years, but by them showing their hand that this is the beginning of the end of this group of corporate criminals?
That's the way we look at it now. However, if the wild card goes as wild as starting a war with Iran, then all bets are off, because they will keep us in the state of perpetual war. Look, they're keeping us in war now, even though we're in Iraq are bogus. We were told there were weapons of mass destruction. We were told there were ties to al-Qaida, and they weren't there. We're still there. So if there's a real war with Iran, a major war, then our forecast changes. And again, we can't predict the wild card.
And again, they just put out a new fake report saying Iran had nukes. That's now been proven to be fraudulent. They're trying the same playbook. Gerald, I want to go to calls here, but I wanted to ask you this question. I'm sure you saw the Bloomberg article a few weeks ago where Goldman Sachs is arming its employees against the citizens and expect lynch mobs, literally the villagers with pitchforks, to come. Again, they're criminals that have committed these crimes. They can't believe that we're putting up with it. They know they're criminal. They know they've been bad. Can you speak to that?
Well, listen to Lloyd Blankfein, the head of the Goldman Sachs gang. He has the nerve to say he's doing God's work. I mean, you know, these people are delusional in a lot of ways. Yeah, they know the people are after them. One of the trends we wrote about a year ago, it was off with their heads. We saw this coming. Yeah, they know they're in trouble. And so is, by the way, the whole government is in trouble. They're so disconnected. And of course they're disconnected.
Exactly. Even the Democrats on the grassroots, even the chairman of the party is against this health care bill that raises your taxes and cuts your benefits for the insurance companies who wrote it. The Democrats have now read it, and they don't care if Republicans and Democrats don't want it. Some polls as high as 75% against. They're still going to pass it.
And they did the same thing with TARP. They do the same thing with everything. They cannot gauge the anger of the people because they are living privileged lives. Off with their heads came about because of the same reason. Let them eat cake, give them a health insurance policy. It's the same thing. They don't have a clue of the anger and the real frustration because, and I say this over and over again, when people lose everything and they have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And they're going to start to lose it.
But if people are losing it and they start World War III and set up the draft, which they've been getting ready for, and run all these patriotic ads about al-Qaida hit us again today. They blew up the Washington Monument last month. You know, we've got to arrest your neighbors. They were criticizing the war. If everybody knows the government's criminal and robbed them, they're not going to buy this. And it's going to blow up even worse if they start World War III.
Not necessarily. You know, people get very fearful, particularly the gutless. And people actually believe that George Bush was going to come ride in on the white horse and save them. Remember, he was going to hunt down bin Laden and bring him back dead or alive. How could you get away with such a cheap trick? So the point is you get away with a lot. So if they bring this war to levels beyond what we could ever imagine, they'll be in full control. The flags will be waving, the yellow ribbons will be out there, and it'll be the same lines over and over again.
But the lines are so sophomoric. I mean, it's just...
Again, they believe George Bush. I mean, how bad could you get? After 8 years of Bush, Mussolini could have been elected into office. And they brought in Obama. They believe this song and dance. I mean, how could it's the presidential reality show. Yeah, he shoots great hoops, and Michelle does the hula hoop. I mean, how could you get more sophomoric than that?
And they'll give us some new idiot in 3 years, some new fad.
Well, if we don't have a new third party, but we're forecasting the emergence of a new third party in 2012. And then, by the way, I made my reputation part of it back in 1988 when I had predicted in one of my books, Trend Tracking, that there'd be a new third party and someone like Ross Perot would be that kind of person.
You even said his name.
Yeah, I even wrote the name for some strange reason. And the same situation is available now. And with the internet, what we're doing right now is just the beginning. And it really starts to change now because of technology. Now people only watch about 2 minutes on the small screen a day, but they're watching 6 hours on the wide screen. Very soon, it's now. You could plug in from the small screen and have it broadcast widescreen. We're going to see new news divisions, new news networks, new entertainment networks, media based from the internet.
Well, that's what Fox News has already created, sites that look like Prison Planet and InfoWars, and they admit they're trying to doppelgang what I do. But
they're not you, and they'll never be you. You can't copy you. But we're going to see new news. People are going to tune into an internet candidate. There are more independent.
But listen, I agree with you, Gerald, and I want to take a few calls here. But let me ask you this: they have the fake neocon they have hijacked the rebellion.